I just want to sort of get some perspective on why, like where is their demand coming from, considering the Gurgaon market is now saturated. They've captured as much as they could. And what is the next growth area for them? Because the report says, I think they're looking at Chennai next.
Yeah, I think
Right.
that's
So,
an
I mean, I
announcement.
just want to understand what brought them to the top and what has been the biggest value creator for them.
I
Uh,
think I think you can speak from a market standpoint. From purely from a rich list perspective, of course, the market cap has increased over the last 1 year itself. It's been one of the fastest growth in terms of market cap, and also the debt reduction program that DLF has undertaken, that has definitely had an impact as well. But in terms of market, you could possibly give some perspective on the general
So I'm
market.
not
Yeah.
speaking in specifically DLF, but you would. I don't think the market in Gurgaon is really saturated. We are still a long way. There's a lot of growth that's happening. A lot of MNCs are coming into the city. But having said that, you're also seeing a shifting trend of larger apartments being bought today. You're also seeing commercial activity increasing. Multinational companies, because of a COVID situation, are taking office spaces and taking larger office spaces, because we also understand as much as there be work from home, certain jobs need to be done in the office. But the traditional cubicle is not enough. Now you need a little more, not a cubicle, but a workstation is not enough. It's you need a larger workstation, keeping in mind distances. So we're seeing developers actually keeping that in mind, and DLF surely has moved a large part of its business also into commercial at this point of time. Which is one of the growth areas that is coming in.
Yeah, I think if at all they carve out the commercial and get it listed, that business, I mean, that could be, I would be surprised if it's as valuable as the current business. That's one strong area, I would say. Yeah.
said that it's the ultra high net worth individuals is growing and by
Yeah.
leaps and bounds, right?
Yeah.
So considering that, as in they may be the large chunk of investors investing in real estate, where what is the trend there? Like, what are they buying? Are they buying apartments, houses, commercial real estate? Like, where is that investment from the rich happening?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think it's very relevant considering the fact that the tech stocks and the tech market is being brought down due to inflation, right? And real estate has been traditionally, I'm an angel investor myself, but real estate has been traditionally considered as a bet against inflation, right? So in an environment where there is inflationary pressures and there's volatility in the public markets, uh, there would be definitely an interest towards a commercial real estate which could give a good yield, which could and which would also have an implication on the overall capital appreciation. So from that perspective, commercial real estate investment makes sense. But from a residential perspective, for me, from what I understand, maybe you can add in here, more than the investment and the returns, it's more of the wealth increasing wealth amongst the HNIs, and because of which them wanting a better lifestyle, a better place to live. So there is a demand for upgrade in terms of where they want to live. That's partly due to COVID effect, wherein people are confined to their homes and realizing that, okay, I've got to have a better world where I live than this God. So that could be the reason. But from an investment standpoint, as is where is basis, considering the yield and all that rates, right? India makes sense from a commercial real estate investment perspective. Both segments can grow absolutely, and the one is mainly your question is around investors. From an investor standpoint, commercial makes sense, yield, bets against inflation, capital appreciation, great. Parallelly, India is also witnessing fastest wealth creation in its history now. Look at rich list, look at tech business. I've heard that Bangalore, and you kind of know the salaries of software engineers who goes to these tech companies. It's massive, so they can afford luxury houses, right? So there is a demand for a better lifestyle amongst the ultra high net worth as well, because of which there is a demand for luxury or the residential part of the business as well. And that's across India, I would say. You can add even. You can add,
Yes, this is across the country, but yeah, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore predominantly are the large where you're seeing the super luxury apartments are getting sold out. We've seen that trend into our own products, which, especially in the Groha side, which is catering to the premium and the super luxury user.
But even tier two, tier three, I've seen based on interactions with some of these rich list entrants, right? They're all people are also building second homes, not just in the main cities, but second. So they're spending money on luxury beach houses or places like that, and that there is a definite interest in tier two. Uh, I think Cochin, I mean, Kerala is there, cities in Kerala, Goa is there, uh, and also international. They cannot be considered part of India, but then a lot of investments going in outside of India as well, where people are buying second homes as well. So there is a trend of spending in both commercial and residential.
Yeah, we talked about the high net individuals. In During the COVID period, we have seen that for the common man, for the people from middle class and lower income group, there were lack of options in investment. Like the banks were offering lower rates, and the repo rate was like constant, and it was kind of falling. So, do you think it has some kind of effect on the investment in real estate? It had some kind of effect during the COVID. Like people wanted to, invest more because they were considering that real estate was a safer option, and also if like say banks raise their interests of fixed deposits and everything, which people generally in India consider as more like safer options for keeping their money. I'm not talking about high net individuals. I'm talking about the people who don't have high incomes.
Yeah.
So, do you think it will have some kind of effect on the stocks of the listed realty like companies like Soba or something like?
So I am not an expert on the stock market. I won't comment on it. But what you're talking about is a large part of the Indian population where mass housing is becoming a very big opportunity, number one. But let me backtrack a bit. Uh, COVID actually changed some of the behaviors that we thought the younger generation was getting into. So, first of all, the young generation did not want to own a home. They thought that I can rent a place and I can live my life that way. They did not want to own a car because they had Uber. But COVID has really changed some of that, where they realize that if there needs to be a security for themselves in their lives, it's important to own a home. So it doesn't matter the cost of the home. Let's keep the cost aside. But owning a home became more a talk with the younger generation, and that is going to see expansion in terms of the youth investing in a new home. Now, uh, some of them are in high paying jobs and can upgrade and go to the next level, but mass housing is surely going to grow. Now, will that have an effect on the stock price of the company? uh, I'll allow us to do the talk on the stock price.
Absolutely right. So
Well,
yeah, so if I sell more, it'll have an impact on my valuation, right? So just to add to what you said, during COVID itself, if you remember, a lot of these state governments came with stamp duty reduction and waiver and all that stuff. So there has been a good amount of transaction that's happened during, and I just mentioned in my speech also, right? In 9 month to 9 month, if you look at the total sales of the listed companies in our Grohe Hurun Real Estate Rich List 2021, it's gone up by 34%. So that kind of gives you an answer. The 34% is not coming from UHNIs, it's coming from all over, right? The growth is coming from all over. So I think definitely it's there. And regarding your question on would bank rates go up, would people go back to FD and so on? That's a mix and match of inflation. If a bank rate is 6%, inflation is 7%, then what is the point in putting money in bank? You might as well want to put in a asset that gives you 8 to 8.5% yield, and capital goes up by 10-15% or 10% year on year. So from that perspective, and currently it's a very high inflationary kind of situation that we are in. So from that perspective, real estate makes a lot of sense to beat inflation and also get good rental yield.
All right. And just one more question. How's the government contributing towards the affordable housing sector?
How is the government contributing?
Towards the affordable housing sector.
Uh, so the government has announced special schemes in terms of affordable housing, but from our perspective, what we try and give is high quality products at affordable prices to consumers. In terms of government, I think I'm not too sure at this point of time, apart from the yojanas that they have started in terms of affordable housing that they support. But I think interest rates today are pretty affordable, and the government stepped in, like what Kanas already mentioned, in terms of the registration, the stamp duty. So that itself gave a push to allow the growth in that particular in the real estate sector.
Yeah, just to add one more point, just to add to what he said, I really think, okay, there are quite a few announcements and yojanas, all that stuff is there, but I also think these initiatives like smart cities, right, that will have a lot of impact on uh, people wanting to live in their base city. If you read any, if you look at the progress of civilization or human beings, you've seen that when people migrate to urban centers to create prosperity and wealth and life, and that's why people move from wherever to the metros, right? But what these initiatives like smart cities do it, if there are amenities and tech, and if a city that you are basically from, that's a good livable city, and if more and more people stay back in their respective cities and add value and so on, there could be a lot of interesting demand for increased housing from their respective cities. So government is planning 100 smart cities. If 100 smart cities materialize in 5 years, I mean, that's great. A lot of micro markets would get developed, right? So I think all these kind of things, not just one direct uh, benefit scheme that's intended at a specific point, but then overall, all these things, digital payments, all these things have an impact on people developing a micro market, and that in turn becoming a good real estate market.
Just to add to you, I think the greatest thing that the government did was RERA. I, as a consumer, today, when I bought my first house in 2002, I did not know what product I was going to get at the end of the apartment. I don't know what time frame are they going to give it. I think RERA today, and I think that's the greatest initiative that the government has taken to organize this industry. This was a largely disorganized industry, and that's also one of the reasons why you will see small time players moving out, consolidation happening, and this industry becoming more and more organized. I think, if one has to give credit to the government, it's RERA, because today as a consumer, I'm protected. And I think that is the biggest benefit as a consumer that I can have.
Just to draw one parallel there, if you look at the stock market in general, it has increased maximum value after SEBI came in and the regulations came into picture, right? So similarly, RERA, you can do a parallels with SEBI and stock markets. And RERA coming in, you'll see a lot more valuation or value creation happening because structure, regulation, a lot of rights being protected, and so on. So a lot more investors would be comfortable investing in. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
So my question's got to do with the fact that the report seems to suggest that three waves of COVID, increase in cost of construction, increase in the number of insolvencies, increase in impact on, I mean, the overall impact on sales because of COVID has had absolutely no impact on the wealth of these realtors. Now, is that true?
I don't know the exact numbers to substantiate the insolvencies and so on. So again, this list pertains to the top 100, right?
Yeah.
So all these factors that you mentioned about that could be attributed to people below the top 100 as well. So this is focused on top 100, and the wealth per se, it's directly correlated to the valuation of the business for this report. So we're not talking about individual wealth really. It's more about the wealth, the value creation of the companies they own. So from that perspective, right? the company that is featured in Grohe Hurun India real estate rich list, they could be doing well. Their sales probably gone up, or their valuation multiples have gone up. All that factors have happened. So, like you said, there could have been insolvencies, that those companies does not feature in this list.
My question relates to listed companies vis-a-vis non-listed companies. You know, one obvious advantage which the list in terms of value creation, one obvious advantage which the listed companies have, that they have access to cheaper funding. So as far as their debt equity ratio, they can maintain their debt equity ratio quite, favorable and all. So did you, when, assessing these top 100 people in terms of value creation, did you account for this aspect also, and how did this aspect play into the whole thing, big picture? And secondly, as far as other two very important aspects are concerned, which is sustainability and technology, lot of big companies, listed companies and bigger companies, they are they are faster in adopting technology and sustainability aspect, and how these two aspects have also played their role in terms of value creation of the companies which you have assessed.
The first question was around debt. Okay, of course. So for private companies, of course, we have taken the debt into consideration. We have looked at all these aspects that you said. But again, our fundamental principle when we compile any list is, when in doubt, we leave out. Right? So we only look at data that can be seen, that is filed, and that can be verified through a regulatory body. So we have considered all that into account, and of course, we have our own valuation methodology of arriving at these numbers. So it could be the way I was talking to someone, the way I value possibly an entrepreneur in terms of the value of the individual based on the holdings, or the valuation of the business could be different from where somebody else values us. But then we followed a methodology wherein we take the debt and net asset value and all that stuff. That is considered, right? But we haven't really taken the subjective element of, because you're a listed company, you get more access. What we believe is that is already being priced into the share price of these businesses. So from a market perspective.
So post-COVID, there has been a lot of talk about wealth concentration in India. Like according to reports and various articles, we have repeatedly heard that the middle class is diminishing in India. Either people are growing richer or poorer. So in this list, we have seen that some people have gained a lot of, like they have even twice their income during the last 1 year or so. Do you think the wealth concentration is happening in real estate business also in India? Like the smaller companies, are they also growing? Is the growth overall, or it's like the richer or bigger companies are growing faster and the smaller companies are not?
I'll try to take that. I think so. I have a slight difference of opinion to the overall rich becoming richer. That's the. So I was reading a book called Rational Optimism, in which the author says that in the world, if you look at overall from a not just 1-2 years, but overall 10-20 years, rich has become richer and poor has become slightly more prosperous in terms of what they can afford. So basically, a middle class today is much more prosperous than a rich person 50 years back in terms of whatever facilities are available. So that's a different point of discussion. But then regarding your question on the top guys consolidating, I think you would see that trend because the RERA, all that alignment and the consolidation, all that's happening. But that will continue for a couple of years, and possibly after that, then you would see more and more regional players gaining strength, becoming bigger, and you would see a lot more new entrants from each of the regions coming up. So it is just India is a young country, and the regulated real estate in India is even younger. So we have to give it time for an overall, development in terms of length and breadth.